All right, friends, this is it. This is the end of an era. We have a buyer for the willow green Discovery, nicknamed Jimmy. It's all put together. It's gotten shaken out. I've put about 110 miles on it. Looks like I parked on a garbage bag. But here it is in all its glory. This is as far as we're going to get with it. Very happy with how it turned out. This saga started, I think, in June or July. I ended up picking it up in July. I think it was the 25th, somewhere around there. But this vehicle was in pieces pretty much in Eugene, Oregon. A bunch of pieces had gotten picked off. The previous owner, 2 owners prior, had started to tear apart the engine, allegedly to fix head gasket issues. I did a full engine job on it, and I never actually found the true conclusion. They suspect there was an exhaust leak, but I never found any issues to speak of with coolant, actually. So ended up being just a ton of engine work, sourcing parts from all over. Damage, we'll basically just go by panel here. I'll get into the engine in a minute, but over here, first thing we come to is the door was overextended and way out of alignment. So it opened up, crunched, broke the door tether. I sourced new hinges, new door tether, straighten this out a little bit. I mean, there's not much I could do without having the skin off of it, but the door itself opens very nicely. We have new hinge on the door. I actually reused this because it aligned well and it seemed to be in good shape. New hardware, new upper hinge, new lower hinge. I shimmed it properly to get it to fit straight. There's actually no shims on top, 2 below, and then a new door tether, and that included getting inside the door and replacing that whole assembly. New hardware here. Lubed everything up, worked it in a bunch of times. Also realigned this and tightened up the amount of play on the exterior handle. So there is no play, actually. And then this had gotten banged up, but I didn't need to do any work there. Lubed this up, but now closes beautifully, quietly. It has 1 key for the whole vehicle, which is nice. I had 2 keys made. This was all in pretty good shape. For some reason, all of these were removed and the hardware was missing. So I sourced hardware for it, tacked everything down, tacked the carpet down. It's tacked up behind here, up underneath this. It was missing both electric seat controls. This halfway works, the upper works. It only goes forward, so try not to play with it too much. These caps were missing, but I actually got them from a Mercedes in the junkyard. This came with it, but was not attached. This is, I believe, a 1998. 1 year only special edition, single piece of wood. It's actually a cool design. I sourced a rubber mat for it as well, but I think this is a cool feature. It matches the rest of the interior, even though it must have come from a different vehicle. This is original. All of these things here didn't really have to mess with. I did get so our sticker here was completely missing. I sourced one from a junkyard, which I still have to attach, but that's it for the driver's portion. There is this, unfortunately, this big split here, but by Discovery 1 standards, this seat's actually in pretty good shape. All this was complete. I think I did source one of these from the junkyard. Source these pins from the junkyard, but driver's area is tidied up. I did remove this and put it back in to get the harness run through. And this was also, the back of this card had some damage. It was missing a bunch of the pegs, so I added, I think, 3 pegs. So it all sits flush and tight to the door. So, moving on from there, don't think we have anything to report here. The rear seat is in really nice shape. These were loose and there was no hardware for them, so I did have to line them up and reinstall them. Carpet's in really nice shape. Same story here, hardware was missing. I need to get some more grease on that, but these doors are aligned well, didn't have to do anything there. These screws were missing in a couple of spots, so put those on. Yeah, that's it for this side. Did a lot more work back here. There was no carpet, and the insulation was kind of messed up. These, actually, I sourced from a junkyard vehicle, as well as the hardware. Like I said, no carpet. The insulation was actually in decent shape. There's no rust back here, which is really nice. This piece did come... No, this may have been missing. I don't know, I think this did come with it. I have to go back and watch my old videos, but it had no hardware, so I sourced the hardware for that. This sits in nicely, the carpet tucks away nicely. This I'll get to at the other door, but this is the original window to it. This is all original bumper hardware, except for the corners. These are going with the vehicle for sale. I didn't get around to installing them, but they'll go up nicely. This was also from a junkyard. This is a divider. Little storage compartment. This vehicle is set up without having the rear seats in the back. Each side has little notches to allow you to install that if you like. And the fog lights, the original lower fog lights. I guess now that we're here, the one thing I also didn't get to is I reattached the headliner up there so it's not sagging anymore. As you can see, the lights, both lights work, and the rear sunroof works, and the switches work for it, but the fabric is missing. The new owner is aware, and he's excited to tackle that on his own, which is awesome. This was completely missing. I had one of these in my stash. I removed them from the Land Rovers I've had just because it says I'm getting bashed up. As you can see, this one is already split. I repaired it. But if you have cargo around, especially without a rubber mat, stuff slides around. These things almost always either get blown up or just get in the way. This is original. This was included. I pulled this out. Actually, I had this whole card off because most of the attaching pegs had been removed. I wonder if I can get some play out of that one. But pulled the whole thing off, cleaned it, and installed all new pegs along it, so it's a nice tight fit. Sitting flush here. So this is basically, it's not how I would have it because I don't really like these, but this is factory finish. Also, I think I took some play out of this to get it to work properly. Swings nicely. This was destroyed by the previous owner, which sucks. I have matching hardware here for the new owner, so 3 out of 4 ain't bad. I also like to add this on so it's not aluminum on aluminum. Got all these lights working. They're all intact. I didn't have to replace anything, but just cleaned up the connections. Got all of the rear bulbs working, every single one, both taillights. This spare, it actually did come with a spare. It came with a mismatched spare, the different style of 5-lug wheel. This came from my white Land Rover, and it ended up working perfectly because my white Land Rover, someone exploded a tire and they put a brand new tire on it that didn't match. Like, the tires on it are at, maybe 60% wear, and this is pretty much brand new. I don't like that because they had fully treaded tire with partially worn tires. Ended up perfectly because this wheel matches this, and I needed a matching spare for this, and I had a mismatched spare for it. So that is now with my white Land Rover. This is here. So just little goofy stuff like that. It's got the factory tow hitch, which I believe is actually standard. I don't think I've seen one without it. Now that we're here, this vehicle itself actually has really nice, nearly new Toyo Open Countries. It's a very nice, very expensive tire that was done, I think the date code's 21. It might be on another tire that's more visible, but there you go. So brand new tires, 5 matching wheels, all original mud flaps, also very nice. This side, need to clean that. Did a lot of work on this one. Whole 2-part video series on this. This got the OEM window regulator from a 95, 96, I think. We replaced that. It has a different style track, which is why I replaced this window. It is an OEM Land Rover window, which is nice. I also realized this doesn't match. This is from the 95 again, so it's not a perfect match, but the window switch works, the window regulator works, all of the windows work, which is awesome. Same story here. I think this window seal was included, but cleaned up the back of this, reattached the weather guard, and added new clips for it, so it sits tight and flush. Same story over here. Nice leather seats. It is missing that one cargo thing, but what can you really put in here? I boxed it, pack of tissues maybe. Another view of the back. So yeah, that's the back as you saw before. This is the one door that got the most work besides the front, and as you can see, it sits here well. It's got both window seals, closes nicely. I'm gonna clean that up. Front here, not much to report. I think one of these actually did come from a junkyard car. One was missing and I installed it. Same story here. This was actually donated from my white Land Rover, and also these controls were donated from the Mercedes. This side works, both upper and lower, both work nicely. We have over here, same story. The hardware was all missing here and it was pulled up. tucked in the carpet, pulled it tight, it attaches underneath the seat. Another thing is, it's nice to have all this trim, even though this one is torn up. These usually get bashed up, and it's nice to have them in the condition they are. I sourced this. It was just missing the inner seal for some reason. I also sourced a mirror. It was completely missing as well. So this is a new matching mirror with the interior trim piece. We're coming to pretty much the end of it, I think. This is original. I just got this weird, I think something was sitting in here actually, like a large piece was sitting in here. There's this white paint here. There's on the horn button as well. There's just some fading here, which isn't great, but there it is, all back together. There's also some very fine, I think this is just sort of like, driving it through the brush. It's a very even, or maybe just one terrible car wash, unfortunately. It's not great, but the metallic willow green seems to hide it pretty well. This is a nice feature, the locking gas cap with the key that we have, which works. Also, paint's in pretty good shape, but this is, being a metallic paint, there is a clear coat on it, and there is some sun fading here, but the seals seem to be good. It's got the original removable crossbars. A little bit of scuffing here. Not sure what the story is there, but it's not, well, I guess that's on the hood. This is not on the hood. But we'll pop the hood open and we'll go into detail on the major work that was done. All right, those of you that have been following along have seen tens of hours of content on this. If you have been following along, thank you. Made it worthwhile. We were completely missing a battery, have a new battery. Alternator was included. Radiator was not included, sourced that one. This is original to this vehicle, and the person that I bought it from actually was kind enough to dig it up. He actually went back to the barn property of the person that he bought it from and asked to poke around, and he found this as well as a bare tire that didn't match, but it all went into the equilibrium of going on the white Land Rover. So, where do I start? Sourced most of the intake manifold, did not come with the vehicle. This is the original exhaust manifold. This over here is not the original exhaust manifold. The one that came with it had a big crack in it, which was part of our exhaust leak, I believe. So this was, I found this from someone in the community. I found out it was bad and had one at my house in maybe 4 days. So that was really cool to see. All new hardware on the exhaust. Original MAF sensor, new hardware on the intake manifold that was missing. Most of the hardware on this engine was missing, and I had to source myself. A lot of it came from the junkyard, good pieces from the junkyard, as well as new things like the new valve cover, because that has a little seal attached, new exhaust hardware, because that stuff just gets destroyed, nice matching yellow zinc coated intake manifold hardware. Spark wires came, they're nice NGKs, came from the junkyard Range Rover. Rocker arms came from the junkyard Range Rover. Push rods came from the junkyard Range Rover. That turned out to be potentially an upgrade when I saw how little oil was flowing on the top end of this, and it being a blessing in disguise, I suppose. The hardest piece to track down was a 97 or 98 only fuel rail. Did track one down, plugged right into the intake manifold, which came from, I think, the 95. Original ignition coil. What else do we have here? Original water pump, which was a recent aftermarket replacement. It was in good shape. The bearings in really good shape. New Atlantic British hardware kit, including stainless for the water pump, as well as the timing cover. I'll get to that in a second. Original hose, which is in good shape, had been replaced. Was in good shape. I did not do it, but it has a brand new master cylinder and reservoir, which is really cool. Throttle body was actually from the junkyard vehicle just because it was bent somehow. Sensors are original. New PCV hoses. New vacuum line for the fuel pressure regulator somewhere. It's a blue silicone hose back there. This fan clutch, actually this was very last minute. I realized the original fan clutch that came with it was seized, and I had another good spare, so I rotated that one in. I was also missing the tensioner, which came from one of the junkyard Land Rovers. I popped off the, there was a little squeaky, or a little sticky, so I popped off the seal and greased the bearing on that. Came right back to life, which is awesome. All of the emission stuff that came with it. Original grille, decent shape besides that split bumper. This is original to this vehicle, but also came in that parts batch from the guy that I bought it from. So very nice of him to get that. My spare jack, which I got years ago from the junkyard, as well as, okay, that is one thing from the back, as well as just a nice little feature I kind of threw in. You know, it doesn't really make it any more valuable, but there it is. Panic for a second. So this is the original Land Rover packaging for your 2 crossbars as well as your 2-piece jack handle. Put that back. Just a nice little feature. These are, you know, doesn't make too much of a difference, but this is an all original vehicle for the most part. So I figured that would be a nice add-in for the new owner. Now I'm just gonna come back to that. Yep, we'll come back to that. Back to the front. We have a Bilstein steering damper, which I see that you can't see now, but got new oil filter, got all cleaned up. There is one persistent small oil leak, which I believe is from one of the oil cooler lines just above the oil filter. But again, that's got most of them taken care of. In fact, come back down here. You see that? More than half, actually 3/4 of the timing cover hardware was completely missing. And I was about to do the oil pan gasket when I realized that that was the source of all of our oil leaks, because it had like 5 holes in it from the previous owner, including one right underneath the water pump, which I just barely was able to get in and secured properly without taking the oil pump off again. That was a real pleasant surprise and disappointing discovery. But this whole thing is the disappointing discovery. But here we are. It's running great. I think it's got a huge new lease on life. Biggest feature of all, of course, is the head stud conversion I did, which is evidence, of course, by having this pretty much the bottom row of 5 on each side being visible, that it has indeed had the ARP head stud conversion. All new fluids, bumper to bumper, trans fluid, transfer case, both differentials, engine oil, of course, and coolant. This is the green stuff. I usually use the red GM style, but this came with green coolant, and it was actually very new visibly, so I didn't feel like I had to redo that. This is a new, the original one was in good shape, but there was a chip in it and water had gotten in, so there's just kind of crusty seafoam stuff in the bottom. So nice Land Rover OEM headlight, nice Land Rover OEM headlight. All right, do a little hoop-de-doo. So here it is. Don't mind that trash, but like I said, those bumper corners are included, so the next owner can put those on. But this was a great experience. I'd have a much harder time selling it, or I'd be keeping it if I hadn't found my wonderful white one, which I just fell in love with immediately. That was just a really cool experience. But yeah, there it is, guys. It's been a lot of fun, been a lot of work. I learned a lot from it. Got some new, dusted off some old skills I had and brought some new skills under my belt. And this is going to a loving home. It's like going to be a first-time Land Rover owner. I did warn him, don't worry. But yeah, just this was on the brink of getting parted out. You know, I pretty much just got there in the nick of time. Drove down to Eugene, Oregon, in my 1976 F-150, pulling a trailer, and pulled it back. Had some nerve-wracking moments, but no harm, no foul. Got everything figured out. Got all the pieces together. A bunch of people came together and helped me out. And that's it. That's the story of Jimmy. You know, don't worry. If you've been following the series, it's been a couple months now by the time this video comes out. Jimmy will actually be long gone in his new loving home. But whether it be a Rover or not, Northwest Collector Auto Repair is always going to be making some silly decision, getting something like this back on the road. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more like this, hopefully getting cooler and more technical and more exciting in the future. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Have a great rest of your day. Fool that I am, I forgot probably the most important feature of all that really makes this Land Rover stand out from the rest. Let's see how this shows up on camera, but the undercarriage Let's see how. Is that even? Is this just gonna be some gnarly shot? We'll see. But the lack of rust on this is just tremendous. If that makes any sense. How's this showing up? Just sparkly clean. Undercarriage shot over here. Of course, a nice healthy dose of oil leaks in front always seems to help out there. But tiny bit below the brake. Master cylinder, booster, all that. I suspect that's why it was replaced. So just a hint of surface rust coming through there. But once again, back to the frame. Exhaust, all original exhaust. Really nice shape. Just got a little poke in it. I did replace hardware there on the linkage because it was removed for engine work. Bilstein steering damper, that's nice. And black Bilstein shocks all around. So, that's it. It's the end of the story there.